Ladies and gentlemen, just here within the past few weeks in Philadelphia, there has grown a tremendous surge of public opinion, and well-deserved, because it's this clamor over in Philadelphia and echoed now throughout the country for a Connie Mack memorial. The memorial would be in the form of a memorial statue. I'm going to show it to you later. But it shows Connie standing as he used to stand in the dugout with a scorecard in which he used to signal the positions of his team, pulling an outfielder in, sending him out a little further. But before we go into that, and tonight there are a lot of his great stars here in our audience, and you're going to meet them. Before we go into that, I'm going to travel down the years and show you some film when Connie Mack was honored over in the A's Stadium in Philadelphia, over in Shibe Park. Here was the great Connie Mack, the tall, courtly gentleman. And here were a representation of some of the champions his teams won. He won darn near everything. He always won it with great grace and great dignity. I know he was the only one outside of my mother who ever called me Edward. When he was on our stage, he'd always say, "Now, Edward, I think so-and-so, and I think so-and-so." He was an amazing man. And there he's being carried off the field that day, smiling by his players. And out in the audience there are some of his famous players here, and I'd like to introduce them. They've come from all around the country to be here tonight at the launching, the formal launching of this Connie Mack Memorial Drive. And for those of you who want to participate in it and join the committee, all you have to do is write to the Connie Mack Memorial Committee, Box 266 at Philadelphia. First, I'd like to recall to you through the country some of the great players who played for him. In the 1929 World Series, Connie Mack's wizardry in baseball was best exemplified by the fact that he picked Howard Empey to pitch the opening game of that series. Empey won, and the Athletics went on just to crush all the opposition in front of them. I'd like you to meet Howard Empey, the star of the 1929 series for Mr. Mack. Howard, would you stand up, please? Ladies and gentlemen, Howard Empey. Of course, Howard had some pretty good support in that game. Out in right field, there was Bing Miller. Bing, would you stand up and take a bow? Bing Miller. We had a sensational infield. While we couldn't get all of them together tonight because of various problems, the second base was Max Bishop. Max, would you stand up? The great Max Bishop. The shortstop was Joe Boley, who's here tonight. Joe Boley. Out in center field was the fleet Mule Haas. Mule? And at first base in that infield was a player who was to go on and be elected to the Hall of Fame. Jimmie Foxx, with the two X's in his name. All of you stand up, gentlemen. All of the athletics stand up there. All of you stand up and take a group bow. Come on, let's hear it for the great team. Now, before we go into this further discussion of the memorial, now these ball players here representing greatness in all of its forms, I know they saw many peculiar things happen in baseball. Some of them, were old enough, I think, to remember Rube Waddell, who was sort of one of the legendary characters of baseball because he did odd things. And then there was Bugs Raymond. And I know in their own games they experienced a lot of unusual happenings. Now, Art, could I have that here a moment, please? Now, ladies and gentlemen, here is the first model of the memorial statue that's going to be erected in Philadelphia, outside of Shibe Park. Now, there was the way Mr. Mack, as all his players will recognize that pose, holding his scorecard in his hand, signaling to his players to move in, move left, move right. And because this is the first cast of it, we're going to turn this over to the Baseball Museum up in Cooperstown, New York. So I'm going to call out Sid Keener, Sid C. Keener out here, to accept it. Sid, would you come up here, please? Sid Keener is the director of the Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum at Cooperstown, New York.
See, Ed.
It's awfully nice to have the privilege of turning this over to you, sir.
As representative of the Baseball Hall of Fame, I want to commend the good people of Philadelphia for carrying on the name of this remarkable man. You just called him amazing man. Ed, there aren't enough adjectives to describe Mr. Mack. You and I know.
He was really Mr. Baseball.
Yes, he was.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, infrequently or on our sports horizon appears a man like a Connie Mack, a Cornelius McGillicuddy. And so for all of those of you who want to join in this, we have the most astounding committee now. For those of you who want to join up all over the country who remember Connie Mack and whose children remembered him, just write to Box 266 at Philadelphia. Sid, you take that back to Cooperstown, will you?
With pleasure, Ed.
Fine. Thank you very, very much.